Welcome to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. My name is Judy Pickett. I serve on the board as the treasurer. Everybody smile, say thanks. And I'm your worship associate today. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a white woman with salt and pepper hair, mostly salt. I have blue eyes, I'm of a certain age, and I'm a little too short for my weight. We want to acknowledge that here at the church, we are in the lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole peoples. We're a church of many welcomes, and we offer a warm welcome to all of you. I see a lot of smiling faces and people that I know and some that I'll probably get to know. And we promote spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. This is an active church, and all of you are invited to get as involved as you want to. To learn more about events on our church, go to our church calendar on our website, uutarpon.org. Where our children, how many children are here today? Good, welcome. Are with us at the beginning of the service. And we have faith formation programming available with our gifted leaders, Jami and Anna. The kids gather here for the first time until after the story. And if you'd like more information about our programming, please see Reverend Kristina or see Jami or Anahis after the service. For those present in the building, there are connection cards in the pews right in front of you and where the hymnals are. And if you want to get connected with us, please fill it out and put it into the offering plate when it is passed, or hand it to one of the ushers. We also have small cards here. We have a joys and concerns segment of our service. If you want to share any joy, concern, or sorrow with us, and you don't feel comfortable coming up and talking about it, please fill out one of these cards, and I will read it for you later. Anyway, let's sing hymn number 358 in the gray hymnal, Rank by Rank We Stand.
Rank by rank again we stand, for the four winds gathered hither, loud the be ours to do. Hope if hope said seal them true.
I love that hymn. We get to hear it mostly only at ordinations now, but it's one that I have grown quite fond of over the years. I am the Reverend Kristina Spaude. Please refer to me as Reverend Kristina, Rev K, or some iteration of those. I use she, her pronouns, and am a white woman. I am tall, with chin-length curly brown hair, parted on one side, and blue eyes. Our opening words this morning come from my friend and colleague, Linda Susan Ulrich. This is Open Up the Doors. Open up the doors, push on looming wooden arches embroidered with ironwork. Brace shoulders against the weight of history unmoved. Slough off the musty smell of unused joy and stored up sorrow. Knock rust off the hinges if you have to, and let your breath precede you inside. Open the doors more, make room for a shaft of sunlight to cross the threshold. Give the dust mites something to dance about. Peek through a single slice of possibility and name even the half-hidden truths you see. Open the doors wider still. Pour yourself through the gap. Strut or sneak or sidle as suits you best. Cleanse whatever scrapes catch your skin and bind up the wounds that keep you from entering whole. Open the doors as far as they will go. Draw on the strength of the stones beneath you. Ground yourself in a firm sense of who you are. Stand as a beacon welcoming the next seeker, and shine far beyond the lintel and sill. Open all that you are. Heighten and deepen your connections to the world around you. Broaden your definition of neighbor. Grow into the largest target for grace that you can muster, and pray to become a gateway for even greater love and compassion. Open up the doors, my friends, lest we keep the stranger out and condemn ourselves to prisons of our own making. Come, let us worship together.
We light our chalice with these words from Barbara Burrell. Fire consumes and casts a bright light. May our chalice flame consume our regrets for the past, our fears about the future, and our worries about today. May it light for us a path of joy and peace. Now may we sing Spirit of Life. Number 123 in the Gray Book.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our story for today is Be You by Peter H. Reynolds. You were born to be so many things: strong, philosophical, kind, interesting, clever, helpful, feisty, adventurous, reverent, intuitive, loving, surprising, exuberant, peaceful, active, effervescent, spirited, curious, funny, hopeful, generous, smart, dynamic, spiritual, brave, artistic, compassionate among them. My wish for you, no matter where your journey leads, is for you to always be you. Be ready to take the next step toward being an amazing human being. Be curious. Turn every stone. Ask every why, and keep digging deeply. Discover your own answers. Be adventurous. Live a big life. When you are ready, step outside your comfort zone. Bravely explore new paths and see where they lead you. Be connected. Find kindred spirits. Be with those who make you feel like the real you. Be persistent. Keep going. Never stop. Keep going. Never stop. Keep going. Never stop. Be different. Be silly. Be quirky. Be odd. Be unique. Be weird. Be colorful. Be okay with being different. Be just the way you are. Be kind. Be understanding. Help those around you to be themselves. Listen. Then listen some more. Learn about who they are. Be brave. Try new things. Take a deep breath and plunge forward into new experiences. It gets easier every time you try. Be your own thinker. Think for yourself and set your own unique course. It isn't always easy, but you'll be heading in the direction of you. Be okay being alone. Take time to be on your own. Hear your own thoughts, your inner voice. Listen to your heart. Be patient. Being more you takes time. Take a deep breath. Relax. Let your future unfold at its own pace. It will be worth the wait. Be okay reaching out for help. When you need a helping hand, a compassionate ear, an encouraging word, reach out. As you voyage out into the world, remember, no matter what, you will always be loved. You are ready, so go ahead. Be you. Be very, very you. And today we also have a blessing of the backpacks. This was written by my friend and colleague Kathy E. Smith, Director of Religious Education. So how many people have special bags to carry their stuff in? Let's see, who has a backpack?
I do.
A gym bag? A dance bag? How about a broader definition? Maybe a diaper bag? a briefcase, a purse, because some of us don't have good pockets, but that's a sermon for another day. Maybe some of the other places where you store stuff that's critical for you to go about your days. Maybe a cell phone or a keychain with its keys to transportation and shelter. Now, I bet every one of these bags has some really cool stuff in it, and hopefully are the things that you rely on every day. Could be a computer to help you take notes and do assignments, and of course, a cord to plug it in. Maybe you have some pens and pencils and highlighters. I also always carry Band-Aids with me because things happen. All of these things are just tools. We can learn without them, although it might be harder. There are some things, though, that I would find it really hard to do without. Respect for other people, kindness and compassion, understanding and acceptance and encouragement, curiosity and a passion for learning, listening to other people, working for justice, the feeling of being connected to everything around me. I bet you recognize those. Those are our principles in action. They aren't things that you can actually put in a backpack, but they are gifts that I carry around with me every day, and you do too. These are some of the blessings of being Unitarian Universalist. The dictionary defines blessing as, among other things, something that helps you or brings you happiness. So these are definitely some of the blessings of being Unitarian Universalist. So as you pack your backpack, or your gym bag, or your lunchbox, or your purse, or your cell phone, with all the tools that you need to do your daily work, think about the blessings you bring with you from your church community. As we sing you to your programming, I'm going to offer you a blessing tag to put on your backpack to help you remember that every day you carry with you the blessings of respect, kindness, encouragement, curiosity, listening, justice, and interconnectedness with every living thing. May it be so, and may you share those blessings with the world. We'll sing our hymn number 413 in the gray hymnal as we send our children out to their programming. And as we do so, I am lighting a candle to send them with the love and light of this community.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Backpacks. I'm leaving tomorrow on a trip, and I have to pack. And packing is very anxious for me because I never know what to take, and I always want to take everything. Yes. It's now time to take our offering for the work and the welfare of this church. And this month, we're going to do a special Give the Plate. In response to the wildfires ravaging Hawaii, we will be taking a special collection for the next month to support the emergency needs. The First Unitarian Church of Honolulu recommends the Hawaii Community Foundation Maui Strong Fund. It provides financial resources that can be deployed quickly with a focus on rapid response and recovery for the devastating fires in Maui. The Hawaii Community Foundation will not be collecting a fee for donations to the Maui Strong Fund. 100% of the funds will be distributed for community needs. You can make checks payable to UUCTS, and in the memo line put Maui, and you can put your checks in the Sunday offering. You can mail them to Reed Street, 57 Reed Street, Tarpon Springs, 34689, or you can go online to our website, uutarpon.org, click on the donate button, and then give the plate and put the memo Maui in it. Please give as generously as you can. The offering will now be given and received.
Our song during the offertory is Forward Through the Ages, number 114 in your gray hymnal, 114. Forward through the ages in unbroken line, move the faithful Spirit at the call divine, gifts in differing measure, hearts of one accord, manifold the service, one the sure reward. Forward through the ages in unbroken line, move the faithful spirits at the call divine. Wider grow the vision, realm of love and light. For it we must labor till our faith is sight. Prophets have proclaimed it, martyrs testified, poets sung its glory, heroes for it died. Forward through the ages in unbroken line, move the faithful spirits at the call divine. Not alone we conquer, not alone we fall. In each loss or triumph, lose or triumph fall, bound by God's far purpose in one living whole. Move we on together to the shining goal. Forward through the ages in unbroken line, move the faithful spirits at the call divine.
We will hold a brief moment of silence now to let you settle into yourselves and your seats. You might take a few deep breaths into your belly if that's comfortable for you. Our reading today is an excerpt from The Dharma of Snow by Aya Medhanandi Bhikkhuni, who lives in Perth, Ontario. This piece was published in 2016 in Tricycle, the Buddhist Review. In its entirety, it's a reflection on how this one moment is a metaphor for the Noble Eightfold Path, but I am only using an illustration of it for the purpose of this service. She writes, "Last winter we had quite a lot of snow. In April we were still navigating from building to building through narrow pathways dug into several feet of snow high. The days were quite bright and sunny, and it was remarkable to us that the snow was still there. One day, after our winter retreat, we were moving a very heavy carpet from one building to another, which none of us could lift. We managed to get it on a sled and pulled it from the main house to the meditation hall. And then, by that very afternoon, the snow was completely gone. We couldn't understand how that had happened, literally from morning to afternoon. One of the nuns at the Hermitage, Sister Ahimsa, wrote about it to her son, who is a geophysicist. This is what he wrote back. You seem very impressed with how the snow melted. I'm sure it was amazing to see the world transformed overnight. Melting is a non-linear process, which means melting begets melting. Also, snow requires a lot of energy to change from ice to water, and this energy does not cause any change in temperature. What this means is that the snow can actually be above freezing without melting. If all the snow gets really warm over a few nice days, then it can melt all at once, really fast. As the melted snow starts to run through the unmelted snow, it helps to speed up the process. Then, when the ground appears, it absorbs much more sunlight and the melting really speeds up. The melting has probably been happening for weeks, unseen, and then the snow layer collapsed all at once. This sort of regime shifting happens all the time in the earth sciences. Things hold on the way they are, even in very unfavorable conditions, and then at some invisible point, something snaps and everything changes.
Our song after the reading is hymn number 113 in the Gray Hymnal, Where is Our Holy Church? 113.
Where is our holy church, where race and class unite as equal persons in the search for beauty, truth, and right? Where is our holy writ, where a human heart, a sacred torch of truth has lit by inspiration taught?
The early 2010s was a turning point in American retail. A tale of 3 businesses once likely believed to be too big to fail. Blockbuster is the first. The chain of stores people would visit to rent movies and later video games and other entertainment. They were a huge retailer with a peak in 2004 of more than 9,000 stores around the world. By 2010, the company was forced to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Blockbuster failed to have sufficient funds to make the requisite payments to stay in business, and the only thing that kept them from liquidating was being bought out by another company, Dish Network. By 2014, only 51 stores remained, all in the US. The next is Borders, one of the former bookstore giants. Their business strategy was to have stores with thousands of titles available on site. They were beautiful stores. Borders developed tools to predict reading trends. As e-business was taking off, like streaming services with Blockbuster, leadership hunkered down. They invested in expanding into CD and DVD sales. Bless them. They ended up selling their online business to Amazon, favoring a model that focused on their stores. They filed for bankruptcy in 2011, although the last year they turned a profit was 2006. And lastly, Eastman Kodak, the picture people. In business for more than 100 years, a huge film and camera manufacturer who also invested significantly in research and development. Unlike Blockbuster and Borders, Kodak did move into newer technologies with digital photography and printing. Kodak actually developed the first self-contained digital camera, but struggled to keep up with the industry, which grew quickly. Kodak filed for bankruptcy in 2012, but was able to re-emerge after restructuring and leaving several of its businesses. We want to make the argument that these companies were adversely affected by the Great Recession, and that argument can be made. But more importantly, they were adversely affected by their need to be self-serving and insular. They looked at the changing landscape and thought, surely we will make it. As if we can will things to be true just by believing them. But they held on to the way things were, even in unfavorable conditions. Faced with rapid changes in technology, these businesses mostly chose to rely on what had worked in the past. Their business models had served for a few or more decades. Physical stores, distribution centers, labs, and plants, and all had costs. They needed to be maintained to continue quick levels of service, which were becoming more obsolete by the day as people learned they could use the internet and online businesses to get what they wanted in a timely fashion, with the bonus of not having to leave their couch. There were failures of leadership too. Failures to be visionary, failures to take an accurate pulse of the changing world, failures to dream, possibly failures to listen to those who advocated for more dramatic change. In wanting to spare thousands of people from pink slips, perhaps, they only delayed them by maybe a year or two and left them unprepared for industries that had moved so far beyond where they had been left that they were not able to catch up. Most importantly, these businesses lost sight of their purpose. They focused on the bottom line instead of the horizon. Any organization or institution whose vision collapses to 1 to 2 years or even quarters is at risk of losing sight of itself and the bigger picture. They focused on their products and their buildings and not their passions. Back in November last year, I preached on the idea that if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. A different tale from that of Blockbuster, Borders, and Kodak is that of the Zenith Drilling Company. The story goes that Zenith had been the industry leader in drill bit manufacturing, revolutionizing the industry. But you know when you're doing something really well and others will want to follow? And then their competition was catching up, eating away at their market share. The board brought in a new CEO who had all the leadership come to a conference, and he asked them to clarify their mission. After several days of intense discussion and undoubtedly debate, they came back. Their mission was to make the best drill bits in the world. Everyone agreed that this was an excellent mission. The new CEO, though, was unimpressed. "No," he said, "your mission isn't to make the best drill bits in the world. Your mission is to make the best holes in the world." That simple shift in perspective changed their company. They continued to make great drill bits, but also expanded their hole-making business, innovating laser drilling tools that brought them back to #1 in the industry. There are probably as many reasons not to look to businesses to help us understand what works for churches as there are that do, but the idea of focusing on purpose, mission, and strength is absolutely one place where it is helpful. We talk a lot about wanting the congregation to grow, and most of the time this seems very much like people want it to grow for the sake of growing. Growing for the sake of growing, to quote someone likely lost to the annals of the internet, is the growth strategy of cancer cells. It is also generally the mission of most businesses as a way to improve their bottom line. The thing is that this approach doesn't work for churches because we don't have that bottom line. Our bottom line is not about making money. Ours is about serving each other, the world, and the holy, however we define that. Ours is an organization devoted to service that can only be given from the self. Capitalism has deeply impacted churches, not surprising when generations have been fed on a diet of capitalism is everything. But when we allow capitalism to influence our churches, we are rendering what we have to empire instead of to God, however you understand them. And we treat each other in a way that reflects that belief that people are expendable and that no one needs to be held accountable for their actions, that relationships are transactional. This is not how congregations work, let alone thrive. There are different kinds of growth that congregations may experience. Numerical growth is just one. And unless a congregation learns to live within its means, it is often the one mostly sought after, like a magic potion that will fix all the problems. But in all honesty, it is not that. As membership increases, so do the demands of supporting a larger congregation. If a congregation cannot live within its means at 70 members, it will not be able to do so any better at 150 or 500. Everything congregations have come from their members or comes from the ways their members can fundraise from the community. At least in UU congregations, that's how it works. And this is how it should be. Giving is an act of mutual care and support, a way of affirming the community. Capitalism may be terrible, but until we find another option, we do need money to function. We need money to run the air conditioning, amen for that today, right? Pay staff, and especially to serve our mission. This is your community, and it will only survive if you tend to it. Churches and their congregations are an expression of what you love and value, not the minister, not the UUA, but you. At General Assembly this year, when the number of active congregations was listed, I realized that we have lost a little over 5% of our congregations in the last decade. Before General Assembly, a colleague asked me if I thought we'd still have any but our largest congregations in 2050. The answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that congregations have always struggled with volunteerism and engagement. When I was an intern, I had the privilege of being able to read through correspondence and various reports and notes from my teaching congregation, and they had the same challenges even in the 1920s through the 1960s that we have now. Only they did it with larger congregations. I do know that what worked before, that is, before 2020, doesn't work anymore. We already know that what worked in 1970 didn't work anymore, but everything has changed since the pandemic started. Well, it accelerated the changes that were already happening, just like the snow suddenly collapsed one day, apparently without warning. There have been warnings about changing dynamics that have impacted the church, but not everyone has been willing to listen. I do know that church attendance is dropping in a society that has not valued it for generations. Other activities and events happen on Sunday mornings, a time that used to be set aside for church. I've been invited to speak at events in the community that are happening on Sunday mornings, which leads to the awkward conversation as they know I'm a minister, but seem to think that I'll be available then. Attendance is even stagnating and dropping in evangelical churches, which were pretty much the only ones that were growing before the pandemic. And families now have sports, music, and other practices and competitions that ask their time. We won't mention the scandals churches have experienced over the years of clergy and leader abuse, or that if children were even raised in the church, they lost interest in it, seeing people who didn't look like them preaching a theology that didn't resonate, or as part of a congregation that wasn't healthy. And I know that millennials and Gen Z are not only have all of this as their lived experiences, but also a higher likelihood that they're working more than one job to make ends meet. They're also less interested in the whole church aesthetic of showing up on Sunday mornings and a self-serving practice to be patted on the back before returning to their daily lives. These folks want to know how you're showing up in the community. Not giving money, although there is a place for that for sure, but what are you doing to make a difference in the world? As people who don't have as much disposable income, the idea that what we do matters is even more important for these folks. Some leaders in our faith argue that we will not grow our congregations if we are not seeking to spread the good news of Unitarian Universalism. In general, we UUs are pretty bad at this, having witnessed the harm sometimes done by evangelicals and other loud voices and their faiths, so we stay away from the practice. But we have a saving message. People want to know that there are religious people who think that they're holy just as they are, as their full selves. That we know the world fails so many and we're trying not to do that. Our congregations are also currently being met with the challenge that there aren't as many ministers going into parish ministry. About the same number of people are entering seminary and ministry, but they aren't going into parish ministry. Some don't see a future in it because they've seen their own and other churches continuing to do the same things that they've always done, and it's not working. Some don't see a future in it because they dream bigger than their congregations are willing to listen. Some don't see a future in it because the congregations they've known have been toxic. I feel like we have amply settled that there are a lot of problems with congregations right now. So the question is, what can be done? If you feel uncomfortable, you have reached the doorstep of opportunity, says Jill Noveski, the Director of Religious Education for Children and Youth at the Community Church of New York. With the senior minister, the Reverend Peggy Clark, they have begun a movement they've called Disrupt Church. There's a Facebook group where conversations are beginning, and there was a great workshop that was presented at General Assembly that we'll be sharing later this year. Some thoughts that I've had. First is that you have to want to change. Not say that you want to change, but actually want to change. Transforming even. Not, we can will it to happen just by thinking it. The kind of change that says we want more children and youth and we are willing to do whatever needs to be done to get them here. Money, resources, presence, engagement with the community, meal trains for families, whatever it takes. Not, we like having them here, but I'm not going to miss a service for them. Second is figure out who you are and what you want. Are you going to stick with making the best drill bits in the world, or are you going to make the best holes in the world? Is growth an expression of a vibrant faith, or a way to try to make ends meet? Are you excited about people for who they are and what they bring? I can assure you, visitors know. Third is that you have to be open to ideas. When I have to make major changes in my life, like when I realized I needed to leave the hospital system where I was previously employed, my strategy is throw everything on the table. Chaplaincy is work, more chaplaincy training to become an educator, parish ministry, retail, nonprofit work, going back to school, all of it was put on the table. Find what matches what you value and matches the purpose of the church. Are you looking for meaning, connection, service? Imagine what different shapes that may take. Fourth is that this isn't the minister's work, and we can't save you. This is your work. Ministers can and should lead and support you, guide you, encourage you, challenge you, but we cannot do your work, even if we wanted to. Ministers come and go. Even those who have ministries of 40 years or more in one location will eventually leave. Congregants too. But churches remain. They can remain far longer than any one of us. This isn't to be taken lightly, as churches do close too. But as I stand in the chancel for a church that was founded in 1885, I know that churches can live a long time. The slogan for this era might be, "The church is dead, long live the church." Much like the Princess Bride's Dread Pirate Roberts, the church is an institution. The Dread Pirate was handed to new leader after new leader, as ministry may be handed from minister to minister, and the crew handed over again and again as the congregation is handed from person to person, generation to generation. The institution remains. 5, you have to do the work. People aren't interested in coming to church. They're interested in seeing how we're being the church. Right now, we're focused on the doing and not the being. We're focused on meetings and committees and all the other things that sometimes become their own purpose and not used as a tool to serve the mission of the church. What might some of this new church look like? What if we leaned into strengths and interests better? I read an NPR article the other day of a pastor who left his church because he was tired of the same thing every week. He'd been a pastor for 30 years, but the way that we do church, the sermons and the services, asking for money, the routine and formality of it, wasn't connecting to people, and he could feel it, and they were turned off. So he left to figure out what was next. That turned out to be having a fire pit, leading prayer and reflecting on the Gospels, sitting in silence by the fire, and then getting to work in one of the more than 50 raised beds on the farm that he created. People come every week for that chance to center, to be together in a meaningful way, and continue connecting while doing the work of growing food that is given away in the community. They want their time together to be meaningful, not only for themselves, but for everyone. They are fed and feed others. One of my friends and colleagues is serving a small congregation in Texas. They've decided to scrap worship once a month altogether and instead do a direct service project of some kind. Their first project is to create care packages for UU families with trans and non-binary kids that can be mailed to those in other fascist states. An extra cool thing about this is that they are able to engage the full congregation, from children to their eldest. Another of our sibling churches recently decided that the struggles of declining membership, increased expenses, and volunteer burnout were too much, and they would close their 60-member congregation. As their last act of love for their community and Unitarian Universalism, they voted to disperse their $450,000 endowment to organizations they had partnered with in the community and sent the balance of about $350,000 back to the congregation that had started this one as a satellite. Another non-UU congregation is collecting unsold produce from local vendors and gives it away from their parking lot once a week. Other congregations are offering alternative services, campfire ministries on Friday or Saturday nights, yoga and breathing practices on weeknights, and so on. Some congregations are opening their doors and hosting community dinners once a month, where designated people provide main dishes, both vegetarian and non, and everyone else brings a side, salad, dessert, or beverage. The meal is followed by a brief participatory worship. One UU congregation's practice has become so popular that it has even higher attendance than on Sunday mornings. From the dreaming of the night to the labors of the day, though the path be hard and long, still we strive in expectation. Join we now their ageless song, one with them in aspiration. I don't know what our ancestors would have been able to dream about all the ways that church has changed over the generations, thinking about not only form, but theology, practices, and rituals. That doesn't mean that they aren't faithful expressions. They tell us that we are growing, changing, and what we find now is that even more is yet needed for our living tradition. In celebration for all our possibilities, we will sing as a response in the Teal hymnal, our closing hymn, number 1028, The Fire of Commitment.
voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
In The Gift of Faith, Jean Harrison Newyar has written, "In the lore of ancient China, there is a story of a philosopher who was asked, 'Where is the road called hope?' He replied, 'It does not exist, but as people move upon it, it comes into being.' I invite you to continue moving forward on this path, this journey called hope, with me."
Our closing music today is in your teal hymnal, number 1058, Be Ours a Religion, 1058. I'll play it through once, and then we will sing it twice.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creeds all truth, its ritual works of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love.
We hope you found meaning in today's service. And we extinguish the chalice with these words from Kristina Spaude. It is our work shared with each other in covenant that creates and sustains this beloved community. We extinguish this chalice, but its light lives on in the directions we have chosen today. The light of this faith lives on in us together, in our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits. Amen, and blessed be.